Hey everyone, welcome back to Candid Cinema. I'm Amanda, otherwise known as AMX NDA Reviews on Twitter, Instagram, and Letterboxd. Today I will be ranking my top 10 films of 2022. This was hard, okay? This was so hard. But first and foremost, I just want to wish you guys a happy holiday season. I hope that, Santa was good to you and that you celebrated with your loved ones. I really hope that this Christmas, this holiday season was everything that you guys wanted. And I'm wishing you guys all the best in 2023. Together, we're going to be watching plenty of more movies. And I just want to say before I go into my top 10, I'm really, really grateful that I hit 800 subscribers. You guys are absolutely phenomenal. Thank you for watching and commenting and following me on my social platforms and carrying out the conversation on Twitter, on Instagram, however we've been interacting. I just want to thank you guys from the bottom of my heart. This YouTube journey has been really eye-opening, and I love the little community that I have built here over at Candid Cinema. So I'm just really thankful, and I'm wishing you guys all the best in 2023, manifesting a fantastic year filled with amazing television shows and movies that we can talk about. So going into my top 10 of the year, of course, I have some honorable mentions. This year was a monster year for movies, and it was really hard for me to narrow it down. I have my favorites, really tough to pick, what I truly felt subjectively, obviously, because film is subjective. The ones that stuck out this year that really just made me so invested in these characters and in the storyline and all of that. And these are the 10 that I came up with. I did rewatch some just to see where it would fall on my top 10 list. And I'm just really happy with what I have. So I'm going to count down from 10 to 1. Okay. So in 10th spot, I played around with the 10 spot. It's really hard for me. This was so hard this year because there were some really unique films that came out, but no top 10 list is complete without Mark Mylod's The Menu. Okay? Oh my God. What a fantastic original script. So fresh. And I'm not only talking about the food plates that were in this movie. I really love the structure of this. I love that there were a mixture of people coming together to experience the menu of this high class chef played by Ray Fiennes, who's absolutely fantastic in this. You hung on his every word. And I think that he was just so intimidating, perfectly condescending as, this Michelin chef. It speaks to criticism and the state of it that it currently is. Whether you are a critic or you are just someone who's very critical of the food that they eat, there's a spectrum of criticism that is kind of presented in this film, which I really appreciated. Not only being a film critic myself, but it applies to every single field. And what I liked the most about it was that it addresses trauma in a different way. It addresses ambition and drive in a different way, and the different paths that one would go on to kind of fulfill their dream and their destiny. And that one little comment that is planted in the back of your head to drive you forward to your destination. I think that there's so many layers to the menu. The structure of having, the appetizer, the first course, the second dessert, all of that, and then framing it within a story that Ray Fiennes expresses to each of his guests and why he chose certain things for his menu ties into the overarching story of the menu itself. So I think it was perfectly tied in a bow. It's in my 10th spot. Nicholas Hoult is very underrated in this. I know everyone talks about Anya Taylor-Joy, and Hong Chow also deserves the recognition in this one. The cast is fantastic. John Leguizamo's in this as well. Very underappreciated. Seriously, he was in Violent Night, which is another favorite of mine this year. Really just stole it with David Arbor. But The Menu is a very unique film. Blew me away, kept me engaged, very unpredictable, and I loved it. Coming in my 9th spot, I truly did not expect to enjoy this as much as I did. I'm going to be honest with you. I was apprehensive going into a Damien Chazelle film, especially after First Man, but Damien Chazelle's Babylon creeped into my top 10. And I waited. I said, I'm not going to do my top 10 list until I watch Babylon. And Damien Chazelle, it's his own crazy ass love letter to cinema. And I think it's one of the films that really just captures the history of cinema, let alone the filmmaking process. But every single aspect that goes into making a movie. You know, the early stages of the silent film era, moving into the talkies, things change, the industry changes, and you have to be able to adapt. And I think that this perfectly shows that each decade in cinema history has a defining moment, has a defining process. And those things change within decades. And the people currently working on them, the individuals that have made these films, don't realize that they're making cinema history with the projects that they're working on. They don't realize it because they think that it's like, okay, this like short film doesn't matter, or, you know, this movie's not going to do well at the box office, but someone will appreciate it. And then in the grand scale of it, people will study it later on. And, you know, not to quote Martin Scorsese, but you don't make pictures for Oscars. You make them for yourself. You make them for the audience. You make them for these stories being told, for representation to be on screen, to be a part of something bigger. And I think that that's the beautiful sentiment of Babylon. And I said it in my review, it doesn't work unless you watch that ending. The ending with Diego Calva in the movie theater really does tie it all together. The montage that happens at the end of it, tying in Singing in the Rain as well, is just such a beautiful moment, and it hits. It hits because of the conversation that Gene Smart has with Brad Pitt. At the end of it, you realize that we're all part of something bigger. And those little dramatic moments between characters that feels like the end of the world really isn't. And Justin Hurwitz, again, delivers a fantastic score that I've been listening to on loop. Going to number 8 now, we're going to switch gears because I'm a sucker for films that really highlight the true meaning of friendship, even if it doesn't entirely work out in your favor. You still have that person for a moment and you feel like you're tethered to them for a lifetime. And that is Martin McDonagh's The Banshees of Inisherin, and it's great. You have Carrie Condon, who's amazing. Barry Keoghan will grow on you as you watch it. Colin Farrell gives a fantastic performance, if not the performance of his career, to be perfectly honest. And Brendan Gleeson is just so fantastic in this. They are great partners in this. But the beauty of this is the fact that what happens in The Banshees of Inisherin is that people grow apart from each other. I've experienced it myself. You grow apart, but you learn to adapt to this new person. And I think that's what happens in The Banshees of Inisherin without actually meaning to. So the whole point of this is that you may get tired or bored with the person that you have spent so much time with, even if you didn't have anything in common, but you're still together. You still respect them, you still love them, you still support them, you know, in your own way. And that is what this friendship becomes at the end of the day. It does have a dark turning point, don't get me wrong, and it's so sad, even though there are some great funny lines delivered from all of them. I really enjoyed this. I didn't expect to enjoy it as much as I did, but it is Martin McDonagh. I think that this is one of the best scripts of the year. Coming in 7th, I have Women Talking, which just came out. If you haven't watched it, please go to the theater. It's a very important film. I think Sarah Polley did a fantastic job with this film, especially adapting it because it's such a dense book. And it's in the perspective of the male. It's through a male lens narratively. And the fact that she changed it to have the male voice present, but have the women at the forefront, obviously talking about this situation, is something that I really enjoyed. I think that the tough subject matter in regards to like abuse and assault and treating the women poorly on the compound was done tastefully. It wasn't that graphic where she could have made it graphic like other films, but I think there was such a tenderness and care in actually focusing on the conversations being had. So these women want to flee this compound where the men have been taking advantage of them their entire lives. So they have 3 options. Do they stay and fight these men every single day of their lives? Do they stay quiet and do nothing and just try to live the best that they could? Or do they have the courage to actually leave? It's a tough thing. It was very tough to watch, and the conversations are engaging because you have fantastic performances from Rooney Mara, Jessie Buckley, and Claire Foy. They all have very different personalities, but they all have reasonable opinions in regards to what they should do. And then there's small conversations being had in between those 3 massive decisions with the younger girls in the compound as well. So everyone has a say at all different ages. It's not like this feminist agenda that people are making it out to be. It's like, no, they don't hate men. They hate what's happening to them at the hands of men. And the fact that there is a male voice in Women Talking is also interesting because Sarah Polley knows when to direct the man in the film, who's played by Ben Whishaw, when he has to listen, when he has to speak. And I think that's really important in regards to being an ally for women with these conversations being had. In my sixth spot, I bumped him up because I watched it again. I put Elvis in my sixth spot because maybe I was tired when I was watching it in the theater. I did not feel the runtime as much on the second watch, maybe because I knew what was going to happen. But this second watch solidified the fact that I enjoyed what Baz Luhrmann did with it even more. Because stylistically, he nailed the essence of Elvis Presley. He really did. I think in every single shot, I appreciated the editing even more so. The transitions were really important. The songs were really effective, and the placement of the songs in certain scenes in regards to Colonel Tom Parker and what he did to Elvis later on in the third act. I thought everything was perfectly placed, and it did flow a bit better. I was even more invested the second time I watched it just because of the incredible powerhouse performance that Austin Butler gives as Elvis Presley. Of course, he doesn't look exactly like him, but damn, does that voice hit every single time. If I'm watching like a compilation video, I'm watching an interview, Austin Butler's voice dropping that low with the little like Presley twang that he has, I think he absolutely nailed it. And he is my pick for best actor. Elvis impressed me again. I really enjoyed this film. And I am a fan of Baz Luhrmann. I really am. It does run a bit long, and I think that's the issue. But the whole movie is just so vibrant and excessive. I've said this in my review, and I think people were like, what do you mean it's tame? But I feel like this was a bit more tame stylistically. Like, he still has the same beats. Like, if you watch The Great Gatsby and Moulin Rouge right after this, they're the same transitions, the same camera movements, the same angles type of thing, but this was a bit more in tune with who Elvis Presley was. And I think that he did tone it down a bit because I think this is the first time that he really like touched a biopic. So I think he wanted to give that flair of like Presley, but also show the care went into this, that, you know, it's authentic, but also I'm not like embellishing or, you know, changing the narrative to make it more dramatic. Like, he didn't want to dramatize it to the point. Like, you can make it excessive through style, but he really just hit those beats. Now I'm going to go into my top 5. Again, this was really tough for me, but these are the films that I had the most fun with, that I was really engaged with, and that I had like an emotional connection with. So coming in at number 5, I have S.S. Rajamouli's RRR. I did not expect to enjoy this as much as I did. It was so good. The story's really good. It's overly long, but it just hits because of the friendship within this story. And I think that having two characters on opposing sides trying to get to the same goal, trying to hit the same goal, and not knowing that they could have helped each other the entire time was like the meat of this film. The action sequences were absolutely phenomenal. And like I said in my review, to be able to choreograph dance sequences so expertly, and then to choreograph like slow-mo action scenes from like different unique angles, I think it just takes a very talented person to do that. And RRR was a lot of fun. Like, it was just so much fun to watch, and you're engaged. Going into my 4th spot, I have Glass Onion, a Knives Out mystery in my 4th spot. I love Rian Johnson. I know a lot of people are like, but the first one's better. I'm like, you know what? I had so much fun watching Glass Onion because this cast is absolutely fantastic. First of all, shout out to Janelle Monáe. I can finally talk about her. This is going to be a spoiler. Her dual role in this, freaking effortless. It was effortless. And then with the editing is one of the most important things of Glass Onion and Knives Out Mystery. And I think that it was just so well done to work the story the way that it did. The structure of the story is important. Janelle Monáe's delivery and her chemistry with Daniel Craig is important. This movie would not have been that great if the editing did not come in clutch for this film, and the vision that Rian Johnson had for this within the second half of this movie. So I really liked it, even though it kind of panders to like a eat the rich type of story with Miles Braun played beautifully by Edward Norton, and of course Kate Hudson as Birdie J, which is absolutely hilarious. But you just see that there's a group of people that hang on for dear life because they want to remain successful. But I do love the fact that Daniel Craig was back as Benoit Blanc. I love him in this role. I love him in this more so than all of the James Bond films that he's made. He should make 10 more of these. because he's absolutely fantastic. I can watch it over and over again. Coming in at number 3, I have Gina Prince Bythewood, The Woman King. Yes. This movie, I don't know why people haven't talked about it that much. I have no clue. This movie is a win for frickin' Sony. Okay? And this proves that Gina Prince Bythewood should make more action films. She really should, because damn, were those action sequences crispy. The women on screen fighting the way that they did, unified the way that they were as family, women coming together. Do you know how empowering it was to watch as many women on screen fighting? Okay? Talking about, you know, their personal issues. And I don't want to spoil The Woman King because it was just so well done. It has the emotional beats with Viola Davis and the trauma that her character had that she carried with her as a woman in the Dahomey tribe. You know, she had to make a decision, and it was a brutal decision. It was really hard, but she carried it with her. And I think that was the emotional connection to Viola Davis as a woman, you know, and I have to give a shout out to Lashana Lynch, who was absolutely fantastic in this. Thuso Mbidu as well was phenomenal in this. Every single cast member. Also, John Boyega should be in more things. That's all I'm saying. Cast him. What are we waiting for? Let's get him in everything because he's fantastic. This whole cast was great. I connected to the story. It made me cry. It did. As a woman, it made me cry because it's just so heartbreaking to watch women undergo that level of abuse, and the fact that they have to carry it with them. Like, it was just so heartbreaking to watch. It really was. And to see like these young women who want to be warriors and fight, like, it was just so empowering. And I think that Gina Prince Bythewood directed one of the best films of the year, to be honest. That's why it's top 3 for me. I was just invested the entire time. Those fight sequences were brutal, and seeing Black women on screen like that, kicking major ass and having these discussions about their own trauma and their lives and what they aspire to be in the future. Like, I was just mesmerized by all of them. They looked phenomenal. They looked so good. They kicked butt. Okay. The Woman King was great. If you haven't watched it, watch it, please. Coming in my second spot, I know that I've played around with first and second. Okay. This movie from May was my number 1. Okay, something dethroned it just because I'm a crybaby. But the most fun I've had in a movie theater belongs to Top Gun Maverick, directed by Joseph Kosinski. Okay, the most fun I've had in an IMAX theater, the most fun I've had for a summer blockbuster this year was Top Gun Maverick. Phenomenal movie. The action sequences were fantastic. The camera placement, the angles, the anticipation that something could just go wrong at any minute. The entire third act, I was sweating because they had to do this mission. People were dying that you didn't think that were going to die. And then there were surprises. There were plenty of twists in this third act. I did not know that I would be so tied to a movie that is not a franchise film. The first Top Gun, when Goose dies, you get emotional. But then you come to, you know, almost 2 decades later, and you have an emotional connection to Goose. Still. And then you're crying over Rooster, who's played beautifully by Miles Teller. He looks exactly like him. It's insane. Okay. You have a new cast of pilots with Monica Barbero coming in as Phoenix, who I love. You have Glenn Powell, who should always be dressed as a pilot because damn, the freaking presence of that man, the screen presence of Glenn Powell is incredibly powerful. And to watch Glenn Powell and Miles Teller go back and forth, like the Val Kilmer, Tom Cruise back and forth, like that worked, fam. It worked, but there's a level of respect among pilots that I appreciated in this movie. Okay. We had a beautiful football beach scene that we all love. I love that John Hamm was in this as well. This cast was perfect. It is a perfect blockbuster. This is what a perfect blockbuster is, along with The Woman King that I just mentioned. You have an emotional storyline. You have phenomenal action sequences that are making you sweat because there are stakes. Okay? A lot of the comic book movies have no stakes anymore because multiverse. Once you bring in the multiverse, once you know that there are contracts involved, there are no stakes in these movies. There are no stakes. You feel nothing afterwards. This guy's not going to die. But watching The Woman King and Top Gun Maverick, No, anyone could have died. You didn't know that. That's why those third acts were like, holy shit, something could happen. And then you get attached to these characters, and they did that beautifully. These are blockbusters. These are blockbusters. Okay? That's why Top Gun Maverick and The Woman King are in my top 3. Coming in at number 1, I had a really tough year this year. I had a really tough couple of months after September. And I'm going to be very open and honest with all of you. I lost both of my grandparents in the span of 2 months. And I had watched Guillermo del Toro's Pinocchio in theaters after my grandfather passed away. And it is the most emotional I've been in a theater in a very long time, because we get to see Geppetto's backstory in Guillermo del Toro's Pinocchio for Netflix. And we've never seen Geppetto's backstory. Okay, he's this old man, who lost his son, and then he builds this wooden boy, and the blue fairy comes down and makes him a real boy, makes him his real boy that he can live with. But I just absolutely loved what Del Toro did. He changed the structure of the story. He changed the creatures in the story, which made even more sense than the original story. It's adapted from the book written by Carlo Collodi. And I feel like it was just a big difference. It was a big difference from everything that we've seen for Pinocchio. And maybe because it's an Italian story, I'm a bit more tied to it, and after watching it, it stayed with me. It stayed with me. And then my grandmother had passed away 2 months after I watched it. And I watched it again right after she passed, and it still hit me. And the movie means a lot to me because it not only highlights making mistakes and learning to live, it also deals with grief and the fact that you have to live your best life every single day, because life is short. It is. You live and then you're gone. It opens your eyes to the fact that you do have to live day by day, make those memories, live presently, and be able to share your life with the people that you love the most. There's no room for negativity. It is a personal choice to have Guillermo del Toro's Pinocchio as number 1. It really just is one of the most well-rounded films this year. It's beautifully animated, absolutely stunning, this animation, gorgeous. Alexandre Desplat's score is also fantastic. The songs that were, written for this movie, beautifully done. The voice acting, shout out to Ewan McGregor again for playing Sebastian J. Cricket. As we know, he was fantastic. And I feel like he should be getting a nomination for his voice acting. And, animation is not a genre. It is a medium. And I really hope that Guillermo del Toro's Pinocchio does get nominated for more than animated feature this year, and that he does get nominated for Best Picture. I really do think it's well-rounded. That is my favorite film of the year. So I love my top 10. I think my top 10 is really unique. They're all different and they're a lot of fun. They're very me. And I hope you guys have watched these 10 films. And if you haven't, I highly suggest that you watch them. I have 5 honorable mentions. So my honorable mentions, I'm just going to ramble them off. I have Weird the Al Yankovic Story. I know it's impossible to watch because it's on Roku. But if you can find it, I hope they release it on DVD. Daniel Radcliffe is absolutely fantastic as Weird Al, and it's one of the funniest movies of the year. I do have Pearl, directed by T. West, starring Mia Goth, as one of my favorite horror films of the year. It was fantastic, a great character piece for her. I did have She Said in my top 10, but then I played around with it. It's still one of the best journalist films I have seen in a very long time, probably since Spotlight. Another animated film that I loved this year was Puss in Boots: The Last Wish. Absolutely fantastic. God bless DreamWorks for giving Puss in Boots a spin-off. It's all about Puss in Boots trying to find a new way to live and to not do things on his own, and I really appreciated it. And of course, nothing is complete without a Timothée Chalamet film, and I am talking about Bones and All, directed by Luca Guadagnino. One of the best of the year, one of the most romantic films of the year if you just kind of take out the cannibalism, but it's so good. It really is. So if you guys enjoyed my top 10 plus these honorable mentions, please let me know in the comments below. Do you think I'm a bit, nuts for having certain films in my top 10? Which films do you have in your top 10? Drop your list below. If you don't want to do your top 10, you can do top 5, top 3, however many you want to give me. Give me your favorite films from 2022 down below in the comments. I really want to know. These are also my recommendations to you. And I hope that we get to talk about more movies in 2023. If you guys enjoyed this video, please like and subscribe. You can always follow me over at AMX NDA Reviews on Twitter, Instagram, and Letterboxd. I'll catch you guys next year. Make sure to come on back in 2023 because I have some fun things in store. And remember, guys, keep watching movies.